now. Great start by Schweizer, gets away. Valkyrie is decent in second, and from third, Hoffman's right there as well. So the leading three get away. That's their first job done. Patrick Schweizer, this is his local club. Will he make up for the disappointment of not making the final for the all-wheel drive section? Underneath the Effra Bridge, Valkyries comes through in second, third Hoffman. Fourth position being disputed at the moment by Van der Elst, and Steely is there as well. Van der Elst, a little clash there with his countryman. Steely in the blue and white car, just coming over the top of the bridge now. But it is the leader and the pole man. Everyone else in grid order. Who's dropped back a little bit? Martin Kraus had the problems, had to call that technical earlier on with the issue to the rear of the car, and already over has gone Sasha Kuss, the Swiss driver. And Patrick Schweizer has taken off, and he's already got a lead that most people would be happy with at the end of a race, never mind at the end of the first lap. He goes through the Graffel gradient, and the battle is for third and down over, and that's a decent move down the Graffel gradient there. The green buggy is that of number 4, Tim van der Elst, and well, everybody is second, third, fourth and fifth and downwards because they're all together in one large jump. Through goes Valkyries in second and up into third. Fantastic move up the inside. Great move by Van der Elst, Tim van der Elst then into third place. He's on the podium right now, but with plenty of time left on the clock, this is really going to be an endurance. No pit stops for fuel here. They will do the trip, but will they last in terms of their tyre wear? That's the big question. I'm sure on everybody's lips at the moment as the two-wheel drive off-road large scale for 2015 is underway. Just a couple of minutes in the book. Valky is in second, closing down on him, Tim van der Elst, and then in fourth and fifth, Hoffman and De Bella. Good start from Schweizer to get things underway. Adam Johnson alongside me in the booth. Impressive, he did what he had to do, got away, and Ken Valky is just easing away from the battle for third and fourth behind him at the moment. This is decent tactics as there's a bit of a contact there, and De Bella just keeps out of the way because he knows he caused that incident. Doesn't want to get a stop and go at this stage, but Schweizer from Valkyries, and Schweizer has done the first part of his job, i.e. got off the line well and cleanly, Adam.
Yeah, and it's often very easy to get involved in a melee at the start, though. We saw in one of the earlier races, the outside pole man didn't get going, caught a couple of other guys up in his wreck, and had to come from behind. In the end, they did, but if Schweinzer's got to deliver this, he's got to make this basically as easy as possible for himself and learn the lesson from the earlier four-wheel drive semi-final. You don't have to go for world record pace. We know you're the fastest one out there now, but that counts for nothing if you're not there at the finish.
Finish first you've got to finish. It's an old adage, but of course those old adages only come about because there's a modicum of truth in them. Issue in that scrap we were watching, and De Bella, who had been just drafting up towards the back of Ken Valky, is in second place, has dropped down out of third after that mistake there. So Valky has dropped down as well, and as they went through last time around, it's Van der Elst and Hoffman. Van der Elst and Valkyries rather, with Steely and then Hoffman down into fifth. Plekerpool up the sixth. So the leader well out of harm's way, and it won't be long before we're talking about. In fact, actually, do you know what? He's eased his pace. He's just sitting spot on his lap time at the moment. 43.3. The best lap from him, 43.5 from Van der Elst. Everybody else in the 44s. But it's the consistency of Schweinzer that is impressive, because his average lap time has been faster than most people's fastest. But what it seems to me is he's doing, it's almost as if he was listening to you earlier on, Adam, he's not going any faster than he needs to at the moment to keep that 6-7 second gap.
Absolutely, and sometimes you hear the phrase in racing that people want to win it at the slowest pace possible because it means they'll have saved as much equipment as they can, and Schweinzer is once bitten twice shy in this case, and you can see in a way, you can just see we've had a change for second second place. As that battle continues unabated, for them, it's about finishing, well, it's about being best of the rest, but we've already seen Schweinzer have a problem, so those guys are fighting fiercely for second, because who knows what's going to drop their way. But Schweinzer's playing this one very carefully. He doesn't need to go into full-on pyrotechnics mode. We saw that in the qualifying rounds. Today he just has to bring the thing home. Clearly he has the pace to do it, and he'll be absolutely kicking himself if the lightning strikes twice.
Ken Valke is in third position at the moment. The Dutch driver Tim van der Elst has gone up into second, so Schweinzer won, leading from 4 in second, Tim van der Elst. Then Ken Valke is in third, with pressure now from Michael Staley, the German driver on the blue and white number 5. That's the battle we're watching at the moment down the Gravel gradient. And early on, it seems the drivers are much more confident and prepared to double both of the infield whoops. Valke is just getting a little bit of a gap between himself and Staley. This is the final podium position. Valke has had an interesting race week, as has Staley, but both just slightly lacked Adam the consistency to be challenging at the very sharpest end of this final field.
I think, to be honest, if your name isn't Patrick Schweinzer, you have lacked this consistency. He's the only one who's probably pretty much had it, and this track is an unbelievably tough one to have that consistency on, especially where the surface has changed so much, even in the 3 days or so we've been here. Started out basically as one big brown blancmange in the wet at start of play Thursday morning, and it's gradually kind of got drier from there to this point right now, where it is incredibly tricky, as Valkiers has been quietly impressive throughout the rounds, but a lot of these guys behind Schweinzer, and this is another thing that plays into his favour, he's been out front and been able to dictate the pace most of the way. These guys have often had to fight for their lives to get through the qualifying rounds, and there's been a few times where there have been go or go home scenarios for them. So I think in a way, pressure builds diamonds. They will have come through those battles and be full of confidence for the final now.
Coming on to the end of the 10th lap for Patrick Schweinzer, and we'll pick him up in just a second. He's going through the back area of the circuit, or at least the grid area of the circuit now. His next challenge is that shortly he's going to come round to the back of the field. Rick Hoffman, Mike Pleckerpool, Martin Kraus all need to be lapped. Now his gap last time around was 6 seconds at the front of the field, and he's just hitting his marks, doing his times. Another 43.2 last time around. His best is a 42.6. His average of 43.8 for the first 10 laps of the final of the large-scale off-road EFRA European Championship. I really think that he has learned his lesson from that four-wheel drive semi. So he goes through the first corner. Imperious driving once again from the Austrian, as he starts to gain on the traffic. And that's not me standing on Adam, by the way, that is a small dog barking, if you can hear that in the background. Or maybe I am just punching Adam. You'd be the judge. He's been no bother, really. Through comes our leader then. There is Schweinzer through to complete another lap. The bright yellow car. Schweinzer then from the club here, based here at the venue for the finals, has completed 12 laps. And waiting for the green of Van der Elst. We'll drop back and see him in a moment, but he's only just on the grid straight now, and now comes into the doubles through the right-handed hairpin. So many hard right-hand corners that are either heavy braking areas or very quick indeed. So Tim van der Elst in second place on the Elcon from the MRCE club in Holland. And he'll be pleased with this. Off-grid 4, holding on to a steady second place at the moment as we've come down to the first third of the race. 10 gone, 20 to go. Leader 44.3 that time for Schweinzer, so he's really easing back at a 42.8 for Van der Elst. A second and a half taken out of the leader. I don't think there's any need to panic here though, Adam, is there?
No, not at all, and I think you can absolutely guarantee that if Schweinzer sees even a glimpse of Van der Elst anywhere near him, he's going to up that pace again. And I think what's also not helping Schweinzer's case is that he's dealing with the back end of lap traffic as well. He's just moved past the number 6 of Martin Kraus, who seems to be doing all right now, considering he was one of the cars who called the technical timeout before the race. His car seems to be trucking all right, but Schweinzer is dealing with a lot of traffic at the moment. He's right in there.
Third place at the moment is Michael Steele. He's gone by Ken Valkirs a couple of laps ago. That's the number 5 car, the blue and white one, which is coming over the Effra Bridge just now. Already expertly picked up by our cameraman Frank. Thank you, Frank. And Steele off grid 5, part of the Leinfelden Echterdingen Club in Germany, racing the Holman HT3. And again, you'll feel better the further back you start. If you get a podium, you'll feel you've done okay, but frankly, if you're in the top half of the field, you wanted really to come away with the big cup.
Pretty much. You don't want to travel all this way to finish second. Nobody remembers the runner-up ultimately, but for some of these guys, for some of the wars they've had to fight to get through the earlier rounds and the early qualification rounds, the likes of Van der Elst and Steele being just 2 of them, for some of them, a podium will be a great combination of a great few days' work. I mean, there's quite a few names who we thought we would have assumed would have been in these big finals. We would have had nailed on to win. I'm thinking of the likes of Melanie Trotman as well, was eliminated in such galling circumstances last night.
Controversial
circumstances,
absolutely.
Indeed. So for some of these guys here, making this final is the achievement. This is their day in the sun for them. But for others, nothing but a P1 will be enough.
So our leader coming round to finish another lap. Steele goes underneath the Effra crossing. The Graffel gradient there. Is that right again? Right-hander dropping down. He's got to be patient there. But a decent run going on here, Steele. A couple of decent laps, although the last one was a 44, had a bit of traffic. Schweinzer easing his pace now, back into the 42s, but still a second a lap quicker than everybody else. And to me, what he's doing here is awesome, as he is just heading in through the final part of the circuit. Pick up our leader again, if we may, as we got the number 4 actually just under pressure at the moment. But that was going past a lap traffic. There is our leader. He just seems to be pacing himself back to everybody else. The Elcon MMX is working well. The MRS breathed on motor clearly doing its job, but he just seems to be doing enough to stay ahead of the field without pushing himself too hard.
No, it looks, his driving at the moment is incredibly clean. You can see it on the screen right now. He's doubling those midfield whoops with ease, and that's the thing about this track. You have to have ultimate confidence to pull off doubling those jumps and doing the D'Agostini doubles as well. It's a confidence track, it's a consistency track, and quite often the guys who have been fastest over one lap have not been the winners of their heats, because you've got to nail a consistently fast lap time. That's where Schweinzer has been so exceptional. He's been the fastest in the field and the fastest every single lap.
He's been able to perform in a variety of conditions in the horrible sticky mess that we had in the early parts of the race, weekends, and he's just made a mistake there. Write that one in your book. Make sure we've got that one saved on disc somewhere. Actually missed his turning by 6 inches or so. Oh, and another little mistake there as he just kisses the outside of the circuit. That's a dangerous part to do that. We've seen a couple of people do suspension damage there. But how much do you think his local knowledge is an advantage around here in a track that has changed radically throughout the week?
It's going to be a huge advantage because, as we said, this track has undergone radical changes. You just can't understand, even looking at the track right now, you just can't understand how abrasive it is right now. But this is a polar opposite to how it started Thursday morning. It was thick with mud. Cars were coming back into the pit lane after races as much as 2 kilos heavier.
Yeah, more 5, somebody said.
5 kilos heavier in some cases. We were talking to Mike Humphries about it, and he was very enlightening. A mistake there from Schweinzer, though. I just wonder, John, is he getting a little bit of white line fever here?
Well,
this was around the same time in the four-wheel drive semi-final. He had mechanical issues. So I just wonder, has he almost put himself so far up? It's almost like when you've got a massive lead in a cricket match, you've still got to go and finish the job.
Well, he's got 16 seconds on the rest of the field, which is headed by Tim van der Elst. We are at half distance, all bar 25 seconds. And I'm trying to watch from our tight shots there that Frank is giving us, just to see how the car seems to be performing. What he's not doing is flinging the car into the corners. I've noticed he's much smoother than some of the other drivers, particularly on the two-wheel drive side of things. sometimes getting the front end to turn is difficult, and you've got to really over-rotate the car and flick it into the corners. Certainly that was the order of the day in the damp part of the meeting Thursday and Friday, but it's almost as if he's deliberately, Adam, trying to keep things smooth and save the equipment.
Yeah, and I think to a degree as well, the track is almost driving right now like a tarmac road circuit in a way that you've got to be, it's not a huge amount of loose gravel and dirt on the racing line. It's very, very much, it's hardly smooth, but it's kind of a solid surface now, and it's a very dry surface. So I actually believe more a kind of smooth circuit racing style is kind of profiting for Schweinzer now. Plus also, as you said, there is a little bit of conservation in there. There's no need for pyrotechnics now. That we know he's ridiculously quick, and the only thing that will confirm it for him is a European Championship trophy.
He is at the moment, the Sebastian Loeb of off-road driving. Economy of movement, not spinning up the rear wheels, not flicking the car into the corner, not even drifting it, not even flat drifting it through that very fast first section. Another 42.9 though, and the stopwatch doesn't lie. Van der Elst was quicker last time around, but only by 0.3, and it's still, well, in fact, the lead is just sitting about 14 seconds, 15 seconds. So he's holding that and just matching his pace almost to the guys behind. Always impresses me in any form of racing, and that's why he's got to be careful lapping people. Always impresses me in any kind of racing that, you know, clearly it's not as if he's got a pit board, but it could well be that somebody's shouting up times or letting people know how close people are getting. So, all right, I need to go half a second or a second quicker. Good drivers in any form of racing can do that. They have that internal clock.
Absolutely, and he's demonstrating that he can do that right now. We've seen that a little bit in the earlier races around the transfer position. If the person in third has felt that they're coming under a bit of pressure from the guy coming back in fourth, they've just eased up a little bit. And as we keep stressing this point, we've stressed it multiple times in this race, he only needs to do just enough to win this thing. He doesn't need to try and lap the field. That's what he was doing in the four-wheel drive semi-final. He had lapped the entire field pretty much by the time he had his issue. Right now, he's lapped a few cars, but at the same time, he will know he's got 15, 16 seconds on Tim van der Elst in second. No need for him to do any more than that.
Amazingly enough, he's lapped up to, I think he's lapped everybody up to Ken Valkeers in fifth position at the moment, and that's at least once, and he's about to lap Mario Di Bella in fourth position. Now, for his part, Di Bella, when we pick him out, it's the very pretty red machine with the white cowling as well, going over the infield whoops now and towards the Effra bridge. He's in fourth position at the moment. In fact, he's already been lapped. In the time it took me to look at the timing screen and look back, the leader's gone past him. But what's interesting to me is Di Bella is back on a bit of a mission here, and he's trying to drag himself back to Michael Steely in third position. At the moment, it's 9 seconds, that gap. But that was a good 15 seconds or so a few laps ago, and he'll be wanting to keep up this very good chase. It's almost like the old 5,000 or 10,000 metres running races. You just take a little bit every lap. There's no sense in sprinting up behind someone and then having nothing left to fight with by the time you get there.
No, and all these guys will be well aware of the times on there, as Schweinzer's just got a little bit involved with the number 3 car briefly whilst putting the lap on. That's Rick Hoffman. That'll be a second lap he's been put on him there, but still going on. But the number 7 doing pretty well, Di Bella, doing pretty well so far. And to be honest, chasing down for third place, that's pretty much what they've been doing since yesterday afternoon. Third
place, crumbs, isn't it? It's the crumbs from the rich man's table. And the rich man at the moment is Patrick Schweinzer. Di Bella there coming through the Samba hairpin, and his target is the blue and white machine, which is coming to finish its lap now. That's the number 5 car that Michael Steely has. Michael Steely on the Horman and Di Bella on the Elcon. Well, that's your third place man at the moment. His arrears are 20 seconds, but anything can happen here. We've still got 10 minutes to go. The last third of the race remains then, And remember, we were doing 10-minute quali sessions earlier in the week, so they've still got a full one of those to do. Second place, Tim van der Elst in the bright green machine is just going under the Effra Bridge and towards the Grafhill gradient there now. 44.4 for him last time around against the 42.6 from a leader, 44.4 from Steely in third, and 44.1 for Di Bella. It's just all of the other guys, Adam, it's interesting to me, they can all put the quick-ish laps in, they just can't do it with the kind of accuracy and repeatability of Patrick Schweinzer. I mean, you know, Van der Elst is doing a pretty good job. His average is only half a second away after 28 laps from Schweinzer, but clearly after 28 laps, a half second a lap deficit is 15 seconds.
Well, it's a bit like sometimes we see it in Formula One. I mean, Mercedes dominate races, but sometimes they'll only be 2-3 tenths a second a lap up per lap. You add that over 10 laps, and that becomes
every lap.
Exactly, and that's the thing with Schweinzer. That's what's been so remarkable. It doesn't matter what the conditions are. It doesn't matter probably what the setup is under that car, because trust me, folks, the surface of this track has been at least subtly different every time he's been on it.
No, I'd agree with that.
That's the thing with dirt racing. The surface is never the same. So for him to be able to do that lap after lap, that's where the local knowledge comes in, because at any track, you learn a bit more about the track with every lap you do. And I'd guesstimate, the way he's driving right now, he must have lapped this place a million times.
MRCE club member Van der Elst then on screen at the moment through the Samba hairpin. Big Dutch contingent here who've been enjoying themselves, got to be said as well, whilst we're moving into the last 8 minutes. It's been a very well organised and well received event from everybody in the paddock and pits area. A lot of people, of course, camping here, brought their full rigs with them, do the European tour with the EFRA events, and it's been a good social scene here over the last few days. The organiser put on Wi-Fi for everyone who stayed over. Brits were all out last night having a very British evening, which apparently included cups of tea and cucumber sandwiches and no alcohol whatsoever.
No, none.
None. As the Van der Elst car in second place then continues to lap. The gap now is 3/4 of a lap between Schweinzer and the rest of the field, at least. Just looking at the minor places, it's Maria Del Bella in fourth, Ken Valke is in fifth, sixth is Martin Kraus, Ulrich Adrian in seventh, Sasha Koos up to eighth from his grid of 10, Mike Pleckerpole in ninth, and Rick Hoffman with his problems is down in 10th position, but still going. All 10 still running at the moment, and we've got a little bit of a coming together on the far side, and who's involved in that? Well, the leader just about gets through it without any... Oh, and he's turned around. The leader's been turned around by Rick Hoffman right in front of us. He's recovered, I think, but that's exactly what you don't want to see. And now he's got Maria Di Bella is trying to unlap himself there. He's already 1 lap back. He's trying not to go 2 laps back. And Schweinzer has got to be careful in these situations, Adam, because broken linkage or something like that at the moment would do for him, because there's just no time to recover. This is what we saw before in the 4-wheel drive semi.
Well, how many times have we seen, even today, the front linkage arms or front control arms for the steering being disconnected, broken in some way? That's exactly what Schweinzer doesn't need. Most of the time we've heard from the drivers that it's the very abrasive concrete lining to the track. You can just see as he's going around, he's getting ever so close to it on the apex. He's not shying away from it at all, as you can see. And interestingly, I think the smooth surface is actually helping him clear those jumps much, much easier, because he kind of comes around and carries more speed out of the corner. He gets on the gas early. That's what I'm saying, though. Those concrete linings to the track, they're much taller and much heavier than you'd think, and those things have been what's really doing the damage. So he either, if someone goes off in front of him or he gets involved in an incident, he either risks damage from contact to the other car or risks damage by going in avoidance. But I tell you what, in terms of his race line, as we can see with the fantastic camera work from Frank here, he's not shying away from the concrete, is he?
No, he's giving it respect, though, isn't it? And he's not pushing it. We've seen a very different sort of body language on that Elcon MMX, when he's had to push, he just hasn't had to push. And I think this is a very mature attitude that he brings into this. Schweinzer then, from the local club, has 5 minutes before we can call him once again the European champion. He won't do the double this weekend, having shockingly not qualified for the four-wheel drive final.
The scary thing is he was actually faster in the four-wheel drive cars. He looked more impressive in those.
I think so, yeah. He qualified better, of course, in terms of after the qualifying, although he was best through the semis. Let's drop back to Ken Valkyr's coming around to complete his lap now, right in front of us. He's in he is in 5th place, the number 2 car. Another one of the MMXs. Been Ken's day today. I thought the long run might be a bit much for him, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit more from him, but as I say, I wonder if the attrition of qualifying through the earlier rounds, I think that may have got to him. The fact is, he's been in the wars a lot today. He's been around the transfer spots, around 3rd place in the quarterfinals, 5th in the semi-finals, and I wonder if for him, be it making the final itself, not a bad achievement. He'll go home happy with that.
Mario Di Bella is in 4th position. That's that other white and red machine, which currently is just on the tabletop and heading back towards the Samba hairpin with a surface change there. It's got too much to make up, I think, on Michael Steele to think of a podium. Qualified 7th for this final. I think his only hope now is that Steele has an issue. But in comes Sasha Coutts. Swiss have not had a good national day today. Melanie Trotman, you mentioned yesterday, getting knocked out at quarter final stage, or 8th final stage, and that was controversial circumstances, taken out by another competitor. Neither of them qualified, and Andreas Ivo went through. Nothing to be placed at the door of Andreas, one should be said, but Melanie was not happy at the end of play last night.
You can understand, and there was no way. I mean, the organisers applied the penalties where they were needed, but it didn't matter. Neither car qualified for the finals, and I think it's a shame, because I think she could have had a pretty decent chance of getting up to the sharp end of the table.
Move forward to Michael Steele, who's the last of the runners on the podium. That's the number 5 car. And he, at the moment, is going through the infield whoops. Just makes a slight mistake there. Much more of that required if Mario Di Bella is to make... Oh, and he's over on his roof. Now, this is exactly the opportunity that Di Bella needs. And here comes Di Bella in the 7. He's on the same piece of straight. Oh, and unfortunately gets involved with a car that's laps down. That's Rick Hoffman. But that was exactly the sort of opportunity that the 7 needs. And all of a sudden, with just a minute and a half to go, there's hope for Switzerland and for the 7 of Mario Di Bella as he comes through to perhaps challenge for 3rd position. No one's going to stop Schweinzer. Van der Elst is a lap behind the leader, but a lap ahead of everyone else, pretty much. So it's not been a bad drive from Tim van der Elst, and on many days it would have been good enough for a championship, Adam. But today, as the leader comes down to start his anti-penultimate lap, it's just been the Schweinzer show, but still 3rd position is under threat. Here's the 4th place driver coming through now.
Mario Di Bella should be given credit for pushing on. It must have looked like for a long time in that race, just gets into the outside wall, just a tiny bit on the outside of, we're calling it turn 1, even though it's before the starting grid. But I think Di Bella had absolutely the right attitude, and I think Tim van der Elst has also had the right attitude, in that you can only go as fast as you can and try and put as much pressure on the guy in front, because van der Elst has known the whole race that if Schweinzer has another mechanical problem, he wants to be there to capitalise. Unfortunately, this time, Schweinzer has been pretty much bulletproof the whole way. And as for the battle for 3rd, I think Michael Steely just having a little bit of white line fever. They're fairly close together on the track. Steely just coming through the final corner now. And there's DiBella showing on the screen. So I think DiBella's just going to come up just a little bit short as the checkered flag is out. Rick Hoffman is the first person to take it, but obviously he's multiple laps down in 9th. But I feel like the battles for 1st and 2nd and the battles for 3rd and 4th have been fairly similar.
So we await the crowning of a champion for the 2015 large-scale off-road European Championships. The EFRA sanctioned series is going to go the way of the local man, Patrick Schweinzer from the club here, with a little bit of a donut on the line. He's got plenty of time to do that, and he's gone through, and he wins it. Tim van der Elst will be confirmed in 2nd, Michael Steely in 3rd, and what a fabulous run from Patrick Schweinzer. He won't get the double today, but he is EFRA large-scale off-road European champion in two-wheel drive. Magnificent driving there. He did exactly what he had to do. And let's give you a quick look at the results. Confirmed then for Tim van der Elst, excuse me, afraid that can't do that. There is our champion then with the trophy. Magnificent stuff.